What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Be Better podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Orr, and it's my mission to help people optimize their health and their performance and live to their highest potential. And in this podcast, I share personal stories from my own experiences, as well as the hundreds of guys that I've coached, as well as everything from my Primal Energies venture and everything in life that I'm doing, so that hopefully you can take my lessons and beat the scar so that you can progress even faster. And so in this episode, I want to touch on a thing called stress that we're all familiar with in different capacities, because I had an interesting conversation with one of my mentors earlier in the week, and we had kind of clashing views on stress and frustration in life. And so I've always viewed stress, I guess, it took me a long time to get to this place, but I guess, first of all, depending on how you view stress is how you will respond to stress. And so one thing that I think a lot of people get wrong when it comes to stress is they want to reduce it. They see stress, kind of like inflammation, as this bad thing that, cool, you don't want this, you want to live a carefree life, you want to have no stress and never have that, I guess, influencing your life. Which, first of all, is unrealistic. Like, it's just not going to happen. Second of all, I don't think anyone would actually want that. Because if you removed all stress in your life, A, it would be boring as hell. Second of all, you wouldn't change, like you wouldn't grow. And so if I was going to be exactly as I am right now for the next 80 years until I die, I'd be pretty upset. And so trying to remove stress completely is a silly endeavor. So when we view stress, though, as a necessary component to life, as to growth, it can change the way that we feel about it and change the way that we, I guess, respond when we're in that situation. And so one thing I read in The Diary of a CEO, the book by Stephen Bartlett, was eye-opening. And they said that how you view stress, like mentally, will determine how you respond physically to stress. And so the people that viewed stress as neutral or even a good thing, like, oh, okay, cool, I need stress to grow my muscles. You stress the muscle and then recover and then it grows. Awesome. You stress the mind with trying to learn something new, it gets frustrated, it breaks or it plants some new pathways, and then you learn this new skill or this new thing. Awesome. So therefore, stress is useful and good. Okay, I'm not adverse to stress. Those people were great. But then the people that viewed stress as a negative, like, oh, you don't want to be stressed, it's bad for your heart health, it's bad for your health, you want to remove that, go go meditate, go zen out, go numb your stresses and your pains. Those people actually fared much worse off. And to the point where I can't remember the exact stat, so I'm not going to quote it because I'd get it wrong. But the people that viewed stress as a negative ended up dying much faster than the people that viewed stress as a positive or a neutral. The people that viewed stress as a negative actually ended up dying from stress-related causes, like, or in that case, what they viewed as stress-related causes, like heart issues, for example. And their all-cause mortality went up. And so how we view anything in life determines how we respond to it. If I see something as an opportunity or a positive, naturally I'm going to feel different to it than if I see this as a challenge and like, oh, this sucks, I don't want to do this, why me, why that? And then not only do I feel differently about it, but that feeling quite often then governs my action that I take towards that thing. If it's an opportunity or I have this neutral or positive viewpoint towards this thing, this stressor, I'm more likely to then go and take action on it. Okay, well, it's an opportunity for me to learn this new skill, for me to solve this problem, for me to do this thing. Awesome, I'm going to go do that thing. Take action, we learn something, we get more feedback, we move on. But if I view this as a negative, as I don't want to address this, I don't want to attack this, why me, this sucks, blah, 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 more likely to procrastinate, more likely to avoid it, more likely to keep pushing it off, kicking the can down the road, so to speak, and then it doesn't get done. Or it drags on for as long as possible, and then we're probably not going to learn a whole lot out of that because we're going to avoid it, we're going to do everything in our power to not have to address it, which is not helpful, especially if it's something that you have to do. All right, or it's very pressing that you do action or address this stressor. And so a viewpoint that I've found really helpful when it comes to handling stress or viewing stress, I guess, is like you've got a stress backpack, right? Because we can all handle so much stress at any given point in time. And depending on where that stress is coming from, sometimes it's more controllable than others. And then based on that is how much, I guess, output we can have, right? And so there's some of the different areas of stress that I most commonly see are things like sleep deprivation, like because people are tired, that makes them more stressed. There is digestive stress. If you're eating a bunch of gluten and you're gluten intolerant, probably not a great idea. If you're eating a lot of processed foods or sugars, or if you're eating things that don't agree with you and you don't have optimal digestion, then you're going to be bloated, you're going to be backed up. That's going to cause stress on your body. That's going to require a lot of resources from your body to kind of address. And then naturally as well, you don't feel your best physically or mentally if you're bloated and there's a conscious feeling in your stomach. And so we've got digestive stress. Then we've got the obvious physical stress. So whether that come from work, if you're doing manual labor or you're doing something physical, or just in the gym or your exercise or your training, so your body can adapt and grow and things like that. That's obviously a good type of stress, the one that we want. Then there's things like psychological stress or emotional stress. So that might come from the workplace, maybe from finances, maybe from relationships or partners. Some of those things there's other factors. It's a lot harder to control. And so depending on what your goal is and what you're working on at the moment will depend on where you shift or where you allocate, I should say, those different amounts of stress. So ideally, we address the sleep one. Boom. Have your sleep routine, get optimal quality sleep. Cool. Sleep deprivation, low energy is not a stressor. We can wipe that one out. Eat foods that nourish your body. So you don't have digestive issues, things like that. Beautiful. We could wipe that one out. Improving emotional intelligence, improving communication, improving those areas and our own mindset. That's going to massively help with things like our relationships. It's going to in the workplace as well. Finances. It's a little bit harder, especially as interest rates are going up and there's a lot of outside factors coming in. But then also putting things in place. Well, okay, do I have a budget in place? Do I have a plan to be able to earn more money? Do I know my numbers of what I'm trying to hit so that that is less of it's a controlled stressor in that space. And then when it comes to either the psychological stress, other factors, if you're trying to learn something, whether it be a physical skill or how to program something, how to run ads, how to do something in your business, that's going to take some stress and going to take a lot of power from your brain, right? And so the less stress we have in other areas, the more we can dedicate to that. In the same way that if your big focus right now is physical development, you're trying to get stronger, you're training to compete, to run a marathon, for a powerlifting competition, for a CrossFit event, whatever it is, and you want to dedicate as much physical stress as you can to training and recovery, then you will be able to recover a lot faster and perform a lot better if those other stresses aren't stacking up. And so knowing what season you're in, if you're in I'm in a learning season with figuring stuff out with work. I'm in a growth and adaptation season with my physical element. Or you might say, everything's falling down around me. My guts are not happy with me. I'm stressed out, so it's affecting my sleep. And so my relationships aren't as good because I'm on edge, I'm stressed, I'm irritable all the time. Awesome. Probably not the best time to try and go on some crazy restrictive diet or some crazy intense training program, or try and create this full new system in the business which is going to take a lot of resources because our bandwidth is going to be so much lower. So that's a way that's really helped me when it comes to thinking about stress, right? If I'm really stressed, where can I reduce some of the controllable ones, and then where can I allow myself to then push the boundaries of what I can handle so that I can then grow, because that growth comes in that frustration phase of learning something, right? If you're frustrated of why can't I get this? I just can't get this. That's a good sign. That's when you're starting to form new neural pathways. Push through it. Don't get angry so that you do something that you regret or that you can't control it, but push into that zone, because that's the learning zone right there. And so to draw this back to the conversation I had with one of my mentors earlier in the week, that's been my view. Just that exact phrase, that exact statement, that if I'm feeling frustrated right now, that I'm not getting this, I'm not understanding this, that I'm not like, and this is on a bigger level, right? Not just in terms of one specific area, but I'm feeling frustrated and a little bit stressed right now because, I'm trying to either, maybe I'm running this ad and it's just not clicking. It's like it's getting lots of clicks, but it's not getting any purchases. Then there's this trend that's looking good, but it's not quite there. Like in the past, for me, I've resonated that with, cool, I'm on the path, I'm about to break through. It's like I'm banging against this wall, and then it's the last few fibers before just like bang, and then like you break through. And so that viewpoint has enabled me to almost look forward to these stages, but also endure it a lot longer and just handle it a lot better. Because I don't know about you, but I know we've been, especially if you're maybe a spiritual person or maybe you just like excuses, how many times have you been in a situation where things haven't kind of worked out for maybe a couple of times or, a few weeks in a row, and then you just say like, oh, it's a sign. It's not meant to be, right? Like a great example at the moment is I want to set up a stall at farmers markets for primal energies. I want to have a stall that I can sell brain juice, both as the packet, but also sell single serves of it to people as a coffee alternative, an amazing hot chocolate, like all that good stuff. And it's actually proving quite difficult. So I applied to the local one to myself, which is literally 2 blocks away. And they said, no, sorry, we don't have a space for your offer at this time. Well, I go to your stall, I go to your markets every single weekend. I don't know what is competing with my offer, but okay. So I'm trying to get more information on that one. I went to another one, which I thought their area would have been very suited to mushrooms, to ceremonial grade cacao, which if you're in Sydney, Glebe, Newtown, Sydney Uni, that kind of area, very much the hippie, retro, those type of people, which would be very likely to adopt if they're not already using like medicinal mushrooms and that kind of space. And then the next option, which I went and visited, which I think would have been perfect, would be the Bondi markets. Again, very health conscious, very, very hipster, very upmarket, and I think that would have been great. Again, went to check out their markets, and awesome. There's nothing conflicting here. I don't see why I wouldn't. Send them an application, yada, 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 and then, got an Autobot response. Sorry, it's your application has been unsuccessful. We can't approve you at this time. Here, maybe try this one instead. So now I'm thinking that maybe that wasn't just due to my application. I think I categorized myself under the wrong banner, for example, which is why I got an automated response. So I'm trying to talk to someone there. But point to this story being that I could quite easily right now say, you know what, I got denied twice, tried another one, and it wasn't for me. So I guess that's a sign that I'm just not meant to have a market stall. So depending on where you sit, some people will take that as, oh, it's a sign. There's too much friction here that I'm just going to give up. I'm going to do something else. But I really like Alex Hormozi's approach to enduring this friction, so to speak. And so it's not about giving up, but it's knowing when to pivot, right? And so naturally, when we set a plan or we create this new goal, we know that, okay, cool, I know it's not going to be a walk in the park. I know that there's going to be some hurdles I'm going to have to jump over. There's going to be some things I'm going to have to overcome. And knowing what those are and having that expectation is different to what that feels like. Knowing that it's going to be a struggle to get up at 5 a.m. every day to go to the gym is different to being 2 weeks into that, your alarm goes off at 5 and you think, holy shit, I am tired, I am sore, I don't want to do this. That feeling, that emotion is very different to the logical brain that set the goal, right? And so the approach that he uses is like in determining, do I push on or do I pivot, is do I have new information? Do I have new information to say that this is not the best approach for me right now? Do I have new information, and not an assumption, new information that says I have a better option right now that I should be focusing on, or a better way to do this? And so unless you have that new information, that new feedback, that better option, then keep pushing. Because if you haven't achieved what you're trying to achieve right now, like if you haven't done that before, if you haven't been in that space, you don't know what it feels like. So going by, oh, I don't feel like doing this feels hard, this feels this, of course it does. You don't know what it feels like. And so the only way that you'll know what it feels like is to actually achieve the thing. And then naturally, the bigger things that you want to achieve, the harder it's going to be. And so these events, this hard space is prepping you for the next level. It's the same if you've ever played video games, right? The levels don't get easier as you go on. They get harder. But in order for you to develop to be capable of defeating the level 10 boss, you need to be capable of defeating the level 9 boss and the level 8 boss and so on and so forth. And so each time you go through this phase of stress, cool, this is developing my character. This is, as David Goggins says, this is callousing the mind, right? You develop that hardness, that determine that mindset that you need for that next level. So it becomes less about what are you trying to achieve and more about who do I need to become that is capable of doing that. Because if you think of the goal that you have right now, the big, hairy, audacious goal that you want to have, whether it's the life that you want to live, the type of business that you want to have, the type of body that you want to have, what is the difference between you right now, your habits, your traits, everything that you are, and the person that is capable of that? There is fundamentally something very different. Maybe it's determination. Maybe it's work ethic. Maybe it's just volume of work, right? And not a lot of people like to hear that, but volume plays into it. With enough volume, you create your own luck. And so when you identify what the difference in you now versus that person, it can help you to start to bridge that gap. Oh, well, they probably wouldn't get takeout 5 times a week. Oh, they'd probably do this more or do that less, and they'd probably do this. Awesome. That's your starting point. And then when you become the person that does those things, you will eventually achieve that goal because you're capable of doing it. And another thing I like around this space as well is being less tied to the material things because they can all be taken away, right? If your success, your worth, your value is tied to your kids, your partner, your house, your business, your finances, anything external to you, they can all be taken away. A lot of the times through no direct fault of your own. This is going to a little bit of a brute approach to this, but they can all be taken away. Someone can sue your business and you have to file bankruptcy. Weather can destroy your house. A fire, a tsunami, a cyclone, whatever, destroy your house, gone. Your partner can cheat on you and take half your stuff, and there's not much you can do about that. Your kids can die in a car accident, or they could just hate you for some reason and just leave and go off and never talk to you again. Very bleak, I know, but those things have happened to people before through very little to no fault of their own. And so what are you left with? You. When you become the person that is capable of creating those things, you become the person that is capable of creating that multi-million-dollar business, that is capable of managing their finances to be able to organize the investment properties, to be able to create that lifestyle, to have the house, that is capable of communication in relationships and cultivating that connection with other people, that is capable of doing all these things. Sure, it's gonna suck if all those things are gone. But if you are capable of doing those and you have created those things from your own back, then I promise you, you will be able to do it again. Because you did it, you've done it once. Do it again. And so to tie this back to my, I've gone on a couple of side quests here, but tie this back to the conversation with my mentor on Monday. His view now is when he feels stressed in life, in certain areas, that's his cue that he's doing something wrong, that he's misaligned. And the analogy he used, that's like a bowling alley. You've got, and as a kid, when you've got the rudders down the sides, the bouncers. And so if you bowl it straight down the middle, beautiful. No friction, just sends it straight down into the pins. If you go either side, there's friction. And if you keep if you don't change direction, you're going to keep grinding against that bumper until you eventually stop or you change direction. And so I thought that was quite interesting because I haven't viewed it from that point, because then it becomes how do you know when to change, and how do you know that this hard is what you need to go through, right? Because I've always been of that mindset. And I think that's something that you only develop with maturity, with experience, because it's kind of like a fat person listening to their intuition of what to eat. Well, that's why you're fat in the first place, because you listen to your feelings as to what to eat. At some point, you're going to have to go against those feelings and not eat that cake. Eat that steak and those veggies and shift that. Like, you're going to have to go against those because listening to your intuition or your feelings too much got you into that place. So going back to, if you haven't achieved it before, if you haven't been on that path before, you don't know what it feels like. So listening to your feelings isn't always the greatest approach. I'm not saying to disregard them, but then also be mindful of, is this my ego trying to sabotage me? Is this something that's trying to keep me in that comfort zone? Or is this something higher? Is this serving me? Because then you go through this life cycle of, cool, you haven't been there before, so don't listen to your feelings. Your feelings are what got you into this place, whether you're fat, you're broke, you're unhappy, you're whatever. Cool, we're going to have to go against those feelings for a little bit. And then you get to that space of, now that you've got the body that you want, now you've got more financial freedom, now that you've got this space, oh, okay, now I know what it feels like for what it should feel like when I'm hungry, or what it feels like when I'm sitting on 10K, 100K. Now I've recalibrated my intuition as to what I'm feeling, what I need, what I don't need in this space. So I thought that was a very interesting perspective, and it's shifted the way that I think a little bit. I hope this has been helpful for you. I just spewed a lot of viewpoints and stories and frameworks on stress that I've used, that I use with my clients, and I hope at least one of them was helpful for you. But like always, I don't want you to just think, oh, that was a cool story, Harry, nice work, bro. I want you to actually action something from this. Take one of these lessons, whether it's the stress backpack or it's the viewpoint on stress or whatever it might be. Take away this lesson and actually change something. Whether it's there's something stressful in your life, reevaluating it and looking at it like, is that necessary? Is that helping me to grow? Or is that unnecessary? Is that just my mind telling me that it's stressful and it's not actually that stressful? Like, what can you change there? And I'd also love to hear from you as well. What do you change? How does it help you to make more progress, to just be calmer, to just be better, as we always say? And so share that with me. Post a comment on this, leave a review, reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. And so, like always, don't be sorry, be better, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.